Yes, guys. So we are live for episode number 8 of the Mindset Tune-Up Show. And I'm doing a first tonight because what I'm doing is I've gone onto my Instagram. So I'm actually streaming live at the minute. But what I'm going to do is when I bring Sean in, who's the guest tonight, I'm going to obviously take myself off Instagram live. So guys, if you're watching on Insta now, all you have to do is jump onto my bio and click my link. That link is going to take you to YouTube and you can watch the show. So obviously this show is streamed on YouTube, not Instagram. But I wanted to kickstart and just talk a little bit about Sean and have that on Insta. And then obviously I'm going to bring him in a second. And then the show's kind of going to work as it's always done. And I think one of the things that is powerful about this show for myself is obviously bringing people in that can give their knowledge in terms of mindset. But I'm super excited about this one because as I've put in a post over the last couple of days, this guy, and it's a bit of a weird one really, because I didn't realize that Sean didn't potentially know the mental and emotional state I was in at the time that I knew him. And I'd say it was, there were 2 periods of my life where I was at my lowest. And when I first met Sean, I was in quite a bad state. But what I'd already found in life was fitness. So thankfully, I'd found this addiction, if you'd like, for fitness. And it was kind of like a saving grace for me. When I was in a kind of low, depressed state before that, I didn't have fitness. I thankfully found it. And that's always been the light for me. And then when I met Sean, which I'm going to talk about when I bring him in, like how I met Sean and things like that, this guy kind of put his arm around me in a way, obviously, he didn't realize. And he taught me more in the fitness game than any qualification ever taught me. And he drilled into me an unbelievable mindset that's still with me today. So any of the people that's ever been coached off me in fitness, probably you should be thanking Sean really, because he instilled it into me. And what Sean got was just this emotional kid who didn't know how to control emotions. And he really helped me zone them into accomplishing some pretty big things in fitness. And for me, they were in the things that I'm proud of. And again, I'm hoping that tonight there's, other than an interesting conversation, I hope it shines a light on the fact that you can impact someone's life really positively without knowing it, just by kind of looking out for them and guiding them and helping them and showing them and kind of giving them things to learn and think about. So again, it's just something to think about, that there might be people in your life that you can guide and help as much as Sean did to me. So guys, if you are on Instagram live now and you want to carry on watching, if you jump onto my bio and click the link, that link's going to take you straight to the show. And you're going to obviously be able to watch me and Sean now. So I'm going to bring Sean into the room, but I'm going to cancel out of Instagram Live. Again, if you want to carry on watching, jump onto my bio, click the link, and you're going to jump in and see Sean enter the room. So guys, I'm just clicking off now, which I'm pretty happy about. That I've smashed all that tech. Right, guys. So Sean, aka Beef, as he was known back in the day. I don't know whether he still is spoken with that term anymore, but Beef was his renowned name. So yeah, I'm going to bring him into the studio now, guys. And as I say, as we're talking through, guys, please drop any comments in. Remember to subscribe as well so you get notifications. And also, if you're enjoying what we're talking about, please do drop a like. So enter in the main man, Sean, aka Beef. How are we doing, mate? Okay.
How are you, buddy?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Thank you so much for coming on tonight. I appreciate it.
Well, thanks for asking. I was a bit like, when you asked the other week, and I was like, well, what have I got to say? I haven't done anything.
That was, I suppose that's me, that not really kind of understanding. Well, to be fair, I kind of put this in a post, which is how well mental health can be hidden in public. So I think that it highlighted to me that during the time that I knew you, I was hiding a lot from a lot of people. You potentially just saw some kid who was a bit this and that, but you probably didn't know the roots of what was stemming it. And like he started.
You were an angry fighter. Yeah. We just wanted to fight. Like fight. Fair enough, because I remember at that time MMA was up and coming, wasn't it?
Yeah.
MMA was quite talked about within the UK. And I thought it was just right. This kid wants to be a fighter. Cool. Let's go with it.
Yeah.
But obviously, there was a lot of underlying issues, and I'll be honest, maybe there were signs, right? Maybe there were signs that I might have picked up on now, or I'm maybe more aware of now. But back then, I was just like, he just wants to train hard. Fine. My type of guy. Let's get him in.
I love that, because I think you're right. I think at that point, MMA was it was rising in the UK, but it potentially wasn't rising as technically as it was in the USA or in other countries. So what we got in England was this brawl culture of people getting in a cage, wanting to scrap and just wanting to go at it. And although there were some really technical guys working on different areas, a lot of people were just getting in there because he had. I personally think a lot of issues, and their answer was, right, I'm going to get in instead of fighting on the outside or getting in trouble on the outside, and I'm going to get in the cage. And because I remember the first fight that I took up in Newcastle, and even my trainer at that point was shocked because he didn't pick it for me. I just said, I'm going for this fight. And I remember telling you and Z, and you were like, right, wow, like you're going for it. And then shit got real, and obviously the training.
That one up in Newcastle.
That was the Newcastle one. You don't think we only had one person? No, two people came. Jake Corrigan, I think you might know Jake, and a lad called Steve came up with me. But yeah, man, and I think I wanted to start. Firstly, I wanted to start just by introducing, obviously, yourself and the gym that you own, S&P. And later in the conversation, guys, I'm going to delve quite deep because I was outspoken about this in one of my posts, that S&P for me was the first gym set up to really make a mark on where the fitness industry is now within the UK, especially because S&P started as if say anything that you disagree with, please shout in, Sean. But S&P started as a raw S&C gym, like a raw S&C gym, and it's not lost that, but it's grown into a kind of a Gen Pop S&C gym. But what happened then, and I'm going to touch upon this a bit later, is commercial gyms had to start waking up because they realized we're losing members to these gyms because people want to train like this, and also they've got a better setup. But I think to create S&P, you and Z had to have a vision. And obviously, I remember you guys having that vision when we worked at Virgin, and you were set. You were like, man, I'm going. I know what I'm doing. I was hearing all these things that you were talking about, getting excited and thinking what's going to happen. You were building on it, but just so people can understand, like, obviously who you are if they don't know, and also about Strength and Performance. Can you just give a little bit on that, mate?
So S&P Strength and Performance. It was born out of various reasons, but more, I would say, the fact that we wanted to train people well. And back then, it wasn't just people, just because of how we were training and what we were learning. We wanted to train the highest level people. We wanted athletes. We wanted people who wanted to show up and just go, let's push it. And obviously, in a commercial gym, you know what it was like. It was a bit soft. It was a bit nice around the edges. And it was like, right, we need to go on our own. So it took a while to try to find somewhere and how we're going to do it. But like eventually, after going over to the States to see Joe DeFranco, Zach Everness, we were like, right, now we know what we want to do. Got back, found a unit, and it was, the mill now kind of looking back was the perfect setup. It was low ceilings, it was dirty, it was a bit grimy, and it was like, this is beautiful. This is perfect for what we want. And then obviously, the kit wise, like it wasn't anything special. We had a few kettlebells, sandbags, tires, ropes, all that type of stuff. But where we probably have changed on our journey is the fact that it has become more business-esque. When we first opened, it was like, we're going to open these doors and athletes are going to walk in. And I remember opening up and days after days, weeks after weeks, no one was coming. And, whether that was our naivety or just, I don't know, just caught up in opening a gym, we expected as soon as those doors to open for it to be packed full of athletes wanting to train, and obviously that wasn't the case. So over time things change and you learn and then you evolve to where we are today, where we do cater for general pop. We do still train athletes. We have coaches who train all the younger population a bit more, But we still stick to our core roots off. We train smart and hard, and we get results, whatever those results might be. And back in the day, it was very much, we're just going to get stronger and fitter and push harder. Whereas now, the result can be, and you all know this just as much, showing up at the gym 3 times a week, or start 1 session a week. But it isn't about a physical result anymore. And I've noticed this over the years, that when people come to the gym now, maybe to join, they don't come with I don't know if this is twofold, whether it's just the general awareness that they can speak in these terms. They'll come in and they'll say, I want to join because I don't feel good at home, rather than I'll come to the gym because I want to lose 10 kilos. So people are using a new language now, and whether that is because they are more aware and society's more aware, or because it's just more accepted now. I don't know which one it is, but it is more aware that people do come to the gym for that reason of, I don't feel good at home, I feel a bit this, feel a bit that, and then I'm like, oh, okay, right, cool. You know what I mean?
And I think it's interesting here you speak then, because I think one of the reasons that people are now feeling more comfortable to go to a gym when they feel like that is because of the community feel of gyms like S&P and semi-private gyms like that. They create a community, whereas a commercial branded gym doesn't necessarily create a community. You don't go in and meet people. Generally, you might obviously go in and nod at someone, or you might go in with a friend, but it's not a community feel. So I think that's one of the things that attracts people. And again, this is one of the things that started to transition, as I talked about, the way people are looking at the fitness industry. Like people kind of
they want to be part of something.
Yeah, exactly, mate. Yeah, 100%. And I think also it's like you've hit the nail on the head there, which is, and this is one of my bugs that with the fitness industry, which I love the fact that I'm on the show with you tonight, because I know I can drop it in. We're going to share some values and have some good conversations on it, because I think that I think one of the things you've said there is like your morals and your values haven't changed from the day S&P opened. But before that, when you were at Virgin, when you were at coach at Virgin, that's what stood out to me. So I started, when I first qualified, I went to a Fitness First in Gorton, and I was chucked on the gym floor. None of the personal trainers spoke to each other. I didn't know how to speak to people. I was that self-conscious and you like a skinhead, angry looking little kid. Like I didn't know how to speak to people. They chucked me on the gym floor. I don't know how to sell. I didn't know how to do anything other than train. And I was like, what's going on? And I just shrunk, man. And I was like, I can't handle this. And when I went to Virgin, I went on a bit of a process between that and bounced between a few different fitness bits. But then I come to Virgin. And when I came to Virgin, I've got to give it props, because there's a few things that I felt Virgin did well. One of them was I felt it allowed the trainers to do more than other gyms that I'd seen. It still was very selective and did have an element of control, but it did give the coaches a little bit of freedom, especially the personal trainers. It gave them freedom to be themselves and their own brand, which I hadn't seen before. But also something that stood out was, as soon as I came in, it had good coaches. Like the team that was there at that time,
we had a good team, didn't we?
There was a good teammate. They were good. They were, number one, they all spoke to each other, which was pretty fucking phenomenal. But number two, they all knew the stuff. They all had kind of like a specialist area, and they all knew the stuff. And they all trained. They were into it. They were into it for the right reasons. They were true coaches. They were true personal trainers for their own reasons and for their client base. But that hit me as well. And then obviously there was probably you and one other. I'm not going to shout names in case people don't feel too cool. There were a few PTs doing very well, but I think yourself and one other were doing really well. But your way of training stood out against any of them, if that makes sense. Like you were training people in a different way. And again, that was this new way of training. That's where S&P was formed from. All this you had inside of you that you wanted to do, but you probably felt there was a little bit of limitation in what you could do. And you that, like you said,
the crazy thing. I look back and I didn't do anything magical. We just trained smart.
Yeah,
I think it was at a time where it was very much, there were gimmicks in the gym. There was Bosu balls. There was the vibrant kind of plates, whatever you call them. And there was stuff going on. And obviously, I remember starting down there, and I was like, oh, you know, I had this vision of how I wanted to train people because of all the stuff I was reading, and I was like, okay, well, this seems the norm pretty much in the States. It'll be the norm here, and then as you go through the months down at you know, being at Virgin, I was like, this isn't the case. This is not how people do it. People are being sold something else. I just want to do the basics. So all I did was, in my head, I was like, I'm just going to teach people how to squat, how to bench, how to deadlift, incorporate a few other things, and do it well. And that's kind of what I got known as. I got known as that person who would train well. And I suppose with that, you train smart, everything else, you start to get results. So I look back and think, I didn't do anything magical. I just did things simple.
Where did that come from you? Because I think this is something that I don't actually know, and whether it did back then, and obviously it's kind of gone out of my mind because of where I was. But kind of where did you grow into the fitness industry? Where did it stem from you? Because you're originally from the Isle of Man, is that right?
Yeah, Isle of Man. Then, I went to uni in Liverpool, did a sports development PE degree, which was absolutely useless, but it was 3 years of having a good time. Came out of that, and I was like, I knew two things when I finished uni. I knew that I wanted to run my own business, and I got that from my old man because he had his own business.
Oh, okay.
Not that it was anything to do with fitness, but I liked the way he would take me to school and, you know, go for a pint here and there and things like that. You know, at his own will. So I was always like, right, I want to have my own business. The second was, I like helping people. I really like helping people. So I was torn between being a teacher, going down the teaching route, or to go down and do all my PT stuff. And obviously I went down the PT stuff, and then, you know what it's like, you got to then go into the commercial world before potentially venturing out. And, you know, that was always, maybe it wasn't the plan so early to open S&P, but I did have a vision from an early age to help people and be my own boss. And it just turned into that. Like, obviously that's where S&P came from. But a lot of my reading and understanding came from the guys over in the States. I loved what they did. They were 5-10 years ahead of us in terms of like a warehouse gym, that gritty feel, that family feel, that hard work, that passion. I was like, I like that, and I want more of it. And we kind of got that going kind of between us at Virgin a little bit, you know, between some of the coaches. We would train together, and we'd get a good vibe, and we'd do just different things, but in a nice environment. And that's when it's like, we need to do this somewhere else. And that's where I got chatting to Z one day over fixing some dumbbells. It was like a test. I think our job was to fix all the dumbbells one day, so we had to farmer carry them down to the end. And obviously I was eyeing him up, he was probably eyeing me up, and I was like, right, I wonder if he's going to struggle at 30s. Right, okay, he's passed the test. We're there, you know, fixing the dumbbells. And that's where the conversation happened about, like, you know, I wouldn't mind opening my own. He's like, yeah, I've been thinking as well. I was like, okay, well, let's go grab a beer. So that's where things kind of started. And then after that, it just went up and up and up, and it happened.
Did you and Z only know each other from Virgin though, then? Is that where you first met? Yeah, wow. I didn't know that either.
I mean, who would think we would be best mates after that? He's like this wild, animated character, wasn't he? And I'm more of a chilled person.
Well, you work so well together, and like I said to Sean before the show, that obviously I wanted to bring Z into it, just because like Sean and Z just came together in every single way, shape, and form. But the contrast was brilliant, even in the way you interacted with each other and around other people, and even when you started S&P. But even in Virgin, you were known as Sean and Z, or Z and Sean, like you two just came together, bounced off each other. And I think that you two held, and I think this probably holds good stead for S&P, because I feel that, and I've worked in some places, not just gyms, but I've worked in some places with atmospheres of certain individuals that make it very uncomfortable to be in. But I think that you and Z have a very good way of bringing the goodness out in people, and having banter and having good conversations and being nice and genuinely having compassion for people. And I think that was instilled in Virgin quite highly because of who you two were and what you two did. Do you know what I mean? And I think the trainers evolved around that. And like I say, it was the first place that I went where I kind of started to, I was probably communicating with more people than I'd communicated with for years before. And it was a good place to be. And then my knowledge at that point. So obviously from a young age, probably about, I think I remember when I was about 17, and I had to get away from I had to get away from all of my friends. Like, all my friends group are completely lost, and I was on my own. And and because I hated my body at that point, I was so skinny. So in my mind, I'm thinking, right, I need to bulk up, I need to get big. This was the mental state I was in. So I bought this pack, funnily enough, from America. My sister lent me 200 quid backpack from America. He came over, and this is me all over, because this is what I did when you came into my life. I got this pack, and it fucking had the program written fully out, the nutrition plan written fully out to your weight. You had to measure your body fat with calipers, and then it took you through a 1 to 8. I think it was like 1 to 8 of pyramid scheme. Then it was a 4-week German volume training. Then it was fully programmed, man. And I went to T. I was like, honestly, like, it just became a life. Like, I was at home, reading and learning about it. I was going to the gym, or I was eating.
Can you remember?
A guy called Anthony Ellis.
Oh, I don't know.
And his transformation was phenomenal as well. He'd gone from really skinny, and he was really good shape, bodybuilder style. And I still remember the pack to this day when it came through my door. My sister lent me the money, but I was religious with it, and that transformed me in terms of this attitude. And then I started to play with different things. So I bought 2 kettlebells, and you'll laugh at this, because again, I feel this is why you resonated so much with me, because I ordered the wrong one. I got 22. I was a 17-year-old kid, never used kettlebells before, and I bought 2 20 kg kettlebells offline, and I couldn't even lift them up, mate. I was like, what? They'd come to the house. I was like, what do I do with these? But the relentless thing in me is, right, you just do something with them. You just do something with them. So I learned the one bit of basic moves, start to go at it, and before you know it, I started to develop strength in these moves, and my body started to transition. And obviously, I was just in my mum and dad's garden, just putting sessions together and pushing myself through. That's kind of all that I had. But then when it comes to Virgin, there came a point where you kind of got hold of me, and you were like, firstly, there was a computer at the gym we used to work at in Virgin, and Sean basically used to stand me at it at the start of my shift and tell me to read all of these different articles, and basically knocked him off the computer until I'd read him. So I used to stand there for hours just looking. And the good thing, that was the other good thing with Virgin, like the bosses weren't, because you were learning. They obviously, if you were taking a mic, they would come over. But if not, they could legitimately see you were doing something on it and were researching. Some of them were okay and let you do it. But you were just like, read this. And I was and I said to you on the phone, like I got chucked out of primary school, secondary school, and I dropped out of college. There was no teacher that could get through to me that I could listen to. And I think you were the first individual in my life that literally said to me, Ben, do this, read this. And just something triggered in my mind to do it. And not just to read it, but to take it in. It's like, Sean's telling me to read this, I'm going to read it, and I'm going to implement it, or I'm going to understand it. And then you start to piece these training plans together, and the training plans you designed for me are probably still the staple of how I train now. You know what I mean? Like, you were the first guy to start hitting triceps and quad sets and really kind of blasting like burnout sets at the end and some really kind of unorthodox exercises, but that had a reason for it. You weren't just put in for a random reason. There was an exercise you threw in for this. And then I think what I found when I was working under you was some form of structure. And then because like Sean wasn't one-to-one PT in me, but when I said in my post, he was creating these programs for me, but because he worked in a gym, I'd be training in the gym that he was working at. So he'd be coming over and saying like, where you up to? What are you doing? X, Y, Z. So it was unbelievable, that process. And that started to create, and I learned more off that than anything on my level 3 qualification to become a personal trainer. Like, honestly.
We did some horrible sessions there as well, didn't we? Yeah. Not so much on the conditioning side, but it was more a lot of lifting back then, wasn't it? And the
deadlifting went insane at one point.
And I think it was because I was absorbing all this info here, and I'm like looking in all the clients in Virgin. I'm like, I can't really use it on anyone here. Ben, come here. So I didn't do it like, I just saw it as I'm gaining benefit.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
100%.
Gaining benefit.
I love it. To be fair, mate, I'm glad you saw it like that and pushed me through it, because I think some of it. There was one on I remember one leg. There was a leg one, and it involved remaining deadlifts, hamstring curls, and leg press. I meant like just the feeling of just throwing up. Just brutal, but for the right reasons. It was a game changer for me. And there were just little cue points I never forget. Things on things on incline bench that you cued me on, just hit different muscle groups, and being relentless in terms of my technique and understanding my body more, and variations of lifting, and understanding how important my grip strength was and my back, and these key things that I think a lot of people neglect that involves passion. Like when you're passionate about something and you really learn and understand it, it's not enough, in my opinion, just to take it off someone. That's where a lot of PTs not necessarily go wrong, but struggle to help someone gain real lasting results, because they kind of coach them, but they don't kind of help this person instill it in their mind is the reason why, and really understand it. And then it becomes their passion, because they kind of feel it, and it's like, yeah, I understand it now. I understand that, and I can feel it and all this. And then it's, as a PT, then you're laughing because this person is enjoying it and is feeling it and knowing it. And you've kind of like taught it, the pennies drop for them. So then it becomes not an easier process, but an more enjoyable one as well.
Which all comes down to education.
Yeah.
It's like if a client comes in and you then just say, we're going to do this without really giving any main reasons, there's that kind of disconnect, isn't there? You suddenly start filling those gaps. They go, right, I get it now. I need to do this now, and I get it. And then they just start to go on their journey.
Yeah.
Which a lot of it comes down to education.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I think that's the benefit of like people with experience giving knowledge, because I think that when you've got a qualification per se that's written out, and it's very science based in nature, and yeah, I understand that it's been researched and proven in some areas, but when you find someone who's potentially broken the norm a little bit by doing something and achieve something high and achieve results, and they can show you and coach you, it shows there's another way, there's another method. So it actually breaks the mold. And if you look at any kind of top athlete, whether they're a bodybuilder, whether they're kind of competitive sports player in terms of rugby or football or whatever it may be in the S&C that's involved with that, like the specific coaches that kind of get the best out of players, they're different. They aren't just going off the book. They've taken the book, they've understood it, but then they start to apply their own thinking and methods and done it in the right way. And then that's how I feel like coaches create themselves. And I think that one thing that I want to kind of talk about, that when you were talking then, when you were first talking about S&P, sorry, and you said when you first opened up and you thought like everyone would be coming in, the athletes would be coming in, and they wouldn't. But I think that's always going to happen, because again, as we potentially know more now, especially myself know more now in the business world, like awareness and marketing, even though marketing isn't what wasn't what it is now back in the day, people still had to become aware of where you were and what you did and who you were. So there had to be a space. But my point being is, if you weren't you, I don't think that space potentially would have been filled, because these people were coming because of you and Z and the methods that you utilized and what you did. Do you know what I mean? Like there was a reason. It wasn't just because you created this unique strength and conditioning gym. It was because when they came, they got the experience, and also then they got the training that you put on, because some of it was, and again, man, like some of the stuff that you had us doing was, it's just addictive. I remember this first sandbags that you made us, and that was, I think that's the other good thing about back in the day, which is because nowadays you could open a gym and potentially finance the full fucking place with top-notch gear. Like, do you know what I mean? Like that people, gyms are popping up now and financing a new gym, and it's looking, amazing, all branded, XYZ. But when you first walked into S&P and it looked amazing, but there was spray paint graffiti on the wall, it had this system. I think it was the red turf you had at that point. You had made sandbags, handmade sandbags, kettlebells and ropes. And I don't know whether you had the salt back at the start, but you ended up getting one of them in. It was just so raw and rugged. But the feeling that you got when you walked in was just like, it's time to get, he's kind of like one of them, it's time to get to work. You walk through the door and it's like it's game time right now.
And that was a big change back then from the commercial gyms, wasn't it? Like Virgin back then had all the nice kit, and then we picked up all these methods from over from the States where actually you don't need the kit. And when you are young, as a trainer up and coming, you can be quite twisted in the sense that you start believing you need all this fancy kit, and then you start thinking, well, I need all this stuff here, I need to go this way, and actually let's just have a look over here. And that's what we did. We had a look over here and was like, actually all we need is a sandbag, a bit of pea gravel, some duct tape, wrap it up, off we go. And you were there back in my old flat as well. What did I have? A tire, a rope, and a sandbag, and we dragged it up and down, carry it, and then you go, right, I like this. This is cool, and it feels right as well.
Yeah.
And then you start developing those ideas, and then from one, kind of one thing leads, to the next. And I think it's just the eye opener that back then, yes, you had all this fancy stuff. We went this way, and then people probably started to realize actually this is a bit more fun this side, and it's that community feel. And that was the big thing, like you mentioned, having that community feel where you felt part of something, you trained together. People did more. People got better results, just kind of because of that. So they weren't just a digit walking into a commercial gym. They were actually someone where coaches knew their name, they knew their kids' names, their partners' names, stuff like that. And that was the real difference that we really brought, along with having a different type of gym, was that you can be part of something.
Yeah, and that's huge, because I think that where commercial, it was really interesting, because I can remember when it started happening, and commercial gyms started to get in unorthodox equipment. They started to get in, and most commercial gyms now have a very small prowler track, tiny in fact, but they think, shit, we've got to have it because then we can say we've got a prowler. They've got certain sandbags. They're setting kind of rigs up. They're now loaded with kettlebells and battle ropes and all of these things that would not have been seen or touched in a commercial gym. And that was it. And I think that I don't think a commercial gym can ever touch, in my opinion, I don't think, and I think they know this as well, because I think there are pros and cons. I think some people will always want to go to a commercial gym for their own reasons, but I think a commercial gym can never create the community feel a semi-private gym can create. They just can't, like you say, that you can know someone's family and kids and kind of what's going on, and on a personal level, and want to go and do kind of good team outings and team things like that. That commercial gym can't, because of the masses, and also just to know it all. But they started to try to bring in the equipment, but the thing with it is it's knowledge of the equipment as well. So what they do then is they plant all of this equipment into a commercial gym, but they don't have coaches that are taking people through it necessarily, if that makes sense. So I think, like you say, it's where S&P stands. Like, you've got all of the equipment that you've got in now, but you've still got a lot of what you started with, and you combine it now to make it as productive as possible. Do you know what I mean? And that's kind of smart, because you were saying on the phone, do you still do the programming for S&P?
Yeah. And I would never want to have a gym where you walk in and it all being fancy. I wouldn't want that. That's not me. I want it as raw as possible. So when you look online and you see all this fancy new bits of kit, you're like, well, that's I wouldn't mind having that in the gym. And then you go, actually, do you really need it? No. Yeah. Move on.
How was the transition to Red? So if obviously anyone that's tuning in that hasn't obviously met Sean or doesn't know about S&P and Sean, obviously the staple S&P was in the centre of Stockport. So the mill was Meadow Mill, wasn't it?
Meadow Mill, yeah.
And it was the ground floor, and you knock through. So you had one room, and I remember when you then knocked through to create it bigger.
Yeah.
And then you made it. Did you go twice? Oh, you went once. That's amazing. Fuck
yeah.
And then you made a move to. It's in Reddish now, isn't it? Is that right?
Yeah, so we are at the top of where the McDonald's is.
Yeah.
First left after that, past the petrol station, just for the fact that the mill turning into flats. So we had to move. We didn't have a choice, and it had to be somewhere close. And luckily, this place came up, which was actually double the size. So turns out it was better. I mean, kind of looking at it, it was just a shell, and we had to do a lot of work on it. But now, it is different now. It is a lot cleaner, a lot area. We have toilets, we have showers. We're like, we didn't have this back in the old place. So
Yeah.
it is different, but it still clings on to that feel if you walk in and you go there to work. Because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, the gym is somewhere where you want to go and get results, and you want to go and de-stress, and you want to have your time for yourself. And we still have that essence to it.
Yeah. But like you're talking about evolution in terms of where you're at now, and that's kind of like a process for any individual or any business. Like to get to where you are now with the setup you've got in kind of like in Reddish, it's like what you've done is you've learned and grown, but like you say, you've not lost what you wanted it to be and what it stood for. So again, it's only kind of got better. I think that, like you say, um, it's been amazing to see the rise in gyms in terms of rise and falls. I've seen a lot of gyms be created. I've seen a lot of gyms fall down and disappear. And I think that I think one of the things that's important, and obviously this is something that I talk about quite a lot, which is visions and goals, and like having a vision. And for me, vision, everyone kind of has their own perspective potentially of what the difference between visions and goal are. For me, kind of vision's a bigger picture of every area of your life. It's a bigger vision, and then goals kind of drop into that. And that, again, that's only my perspective, guys. But I think that where I'm coming from with that aspect is like for me, I think that S&P made. It's funny because the gym that I was in Offerton, we had about 16 we had about 11 personal trainers under one roof, and it was so small it was untrue. And it got to the point where me and my business partner Mark were like, man, we need to get out of here. So we found our own place. But what's really interesting is every single personal trainer in that space ended up going in, getting their own space. But my point being is S&P made that possible. Your vision, I think, created a lot of other people's visions of what's possible. Because how tough was that, in all honesty? Because I think when you talk to any successful person, they're very honest in terms of they do have negative thinking, they do have worries, they do have those questioning thoughts, am I doing the right thing? Is it going to work? They do have them bad nights, they do have them pitfalls, all of these fucking things that come with success. Like we created Benchmark knowing S&P had survived and thrived. You've been open 5 years before us, and we'd seen you. I'd literally personally witnessed 2-3 years of the growth, and then seen it from afar in terms of you getting even bigger and bigger. And then other gyms had seen your growth, and then it kind of then it started to spread across the UK. And I honestly think you were one of the first within the UK to hit it, but it must have been hard for you guys because you were trying to create. And I said this in the post as well. You'd seen something in America that was right, and you weren't doing it because you'd seen it in America and thought it'll work here. You did it because you thought, I want this. This is what I want, and I'm gonna make it work in the UK. But how tough was? Do you know what I mean? I'm just kind of trying to get a vibe of how tough was that for you?
It was nervous. I look back now, but then it's different as well. Remember, back then there was no kids, there was no family, there was no mortgage, there was none of that. So actually, at that time, making that decision to go, there's my notice. I'm going to go and open up this shed down the road with a few weights in. And even back then, it was 2008. It was during the whole big recession. The gym manager was like, "You guys aren't going to last 3 months. We'll see you back here," type thing. And then it just becomes, no, we are going to do this, and I want to do this because I had a real passion for it. I loved it. I loved being in the gym. I loved working hard. I loved getting stronger, and I wanted to pass that on. So in my head, I didn't ever see failure as something that would happen. Yeah. Everyone was like, yeah, get past your first year. Oh, 6 months, get past your first year, 3 years, 5 years. Every milestone just felt like another day. Yeah. It wasn't as if I need to get to this point and then I'm safe. It's no, I show up with the same attitude every day, doing what I do because I love doing it.
Wow.
And then it isn't a job, is it? You just enjoy it. And we are fortunate now that all our team of coaches who work at S&P, they were all members. So they've all been through the system.
That's great.
I always joke with them that, I've nurtured them, I've groomed them all the way up, but they just understand it. They get it. They understand what we stand for. as a gym, as a coach, the fundamentals, how we coach, what we expect. So I feel really safe with them at the realm of it and passing on there now. Yes, they'll have their different aspects that they prefer and how they want to come across, but at the core root of it is always going to be hard work, enjoyment, help others. You know what I mean? There isn't too many core values to that. You know, those are the ones.
Yeah.
With that comes a lot of success for everyone.
Yeah.
And then if everyone's happy, well, then you got a good vibe. And if you got a good vibe, everyone's having a good time.
It's powerful hearing you speak. It really is. And I think the last part you just kind of talked about there and about it not being major milestones and just being a day-to-day of loving what you're living and that's what I try and like kind of help people with nowadays. It's not and not in terms of opening a gym, in terms of on a day-to-day basis. Have you got passion in your life? Like, are you doing things that are making you feel good? Because again, a lot of the struggles that I had back then was I was trying to get away from the way of life that involved drinking, drugs, and bad behavior. But I didn't know what I wanted to do. I know what passions were. I didn't know what focuses were. Like, but then fitness.
About it today.
No, they didn't, mate. It was like literally, and you didn't get taught in school. Like, school had lessons, but not. And again, what's quite interesting now is my niece, who is in secondary school, and I always ask her little questions because I'm dead interested in what goes on in schools now. And I think they are giving them more freedom in terms of choosing what they want to do, and you can choose something quite out there or quite different. And I'm loving that, because it just wasn't the way back in the day. So coming out, and my dad worked for 40 years till he retired with the company turned into another company, but he was there all the way through. He grew the ladder, the corporate ladder, 9 to 5, did amazing, very successful. But then he saw me sacked job after job after job. No idea what the fuck I wanted to do.
What are you doing?
Yeah, like just like honestly, mate, but that hit me because then it's like, because I'm feeling like a failure. So it wasn't necessarily that I wanted to be doing that. Like inside, I'm thinking like I'm letting my dad down. I'm letting I am a failure. Like I've got nothing. I've got no clue. I don't know what I want to do in life.
Set up for the mainstream system.
No, mate. And it was.
Back then, there probably wasn't the support that there is now.
Yeah, with that, but I think that what comes now is, and when you say support, it's interesting that you say that word, because I might come in with something that you didn't mean, but I think you potentially will agree. Like, the support that I feel there is there are more people doing things that are proving what's possible, and there are more things that people are seeing. I can have a passion and a career in this, and I can go into that area. And I think that I always talk, I think I brought it up on every show, but there's pros and cons to social and technology. But there are pros to it. And the pros with social for myself is follow the right people for the right reasons, and you're winning on social. I truly believe that. But also the knowledge you can gain from technology and what you can create in terms of business or in terms of gaining knowledge as well is phenomenal. It's kind of like all there now. So it's kind of like helping people understand, if you do feel a bit null or a bit numb and just aren't sure, there's got to be a process where you break that down and potentially just look a little bit deeper as to why you're falling into this pattern, because it's not as easy as transition, find a passion and go for it. And I think you talked about this with me on the phone, which is a lot of what we go through still helps create the person we are today. And I do believe that with myself. I think that's why I'm so driven now in everything that I do. I think that having the past that I had, like, people do ask me why I'm trying to do so many things and why I'm not slowing down and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, because in my mind, and I think this is a good thing for me, I feel I wasted 25 years of my life. Like, truly wasted 25 years of my life. I didn't read, didn't learn, didn't experience anything. And it's like, I still see life ahead of me. Like, I seriously don't see like I'm getting older now. Things are shutting off in terms of what I'm capable of my ability in any area. I actually think my life is there. It's just how I'm going to capitalize. You've got to be smart with it, but how you're going to capitalize on it. But I think, like you say, opportunity is there now. But it's just kind of finding
journey, haven't you? You got to go on your journey. And I felt like back in the day, maybe, or even at school, it's like you got to go to uni, you got to go get this job, and then you got to go to work, and you got to do your 9 to 5 and stuff like that. And that's kind of taught into, whereas nowadays people don't go, they don't do any of that and they become very successful. Some people leave school at 16 and stuff, and we look back now and we see that. And I suppose the younger generation are more exposed to that now. That actually, if you don't want to do this, cool. What do you want to do? And my mentor at the moment, a guy called Nick Peterson, he's very much like, he's got a book out called Bumpers, and it's like there's a lot of it is like, imagine a bowling alley, and you stick up the side rails, and there's your life, the bowling alley. Everything that you want to do, you stick inside. If you don't want to do it, it's on the outside. So, for example, you need to be home at 5 o'clock to see your kids every day. You also need to earn more money, and then you want to go on a nice holiday. So, if a job kind of comes up, which is more money, but then it's that would mean you staying in work till 6, so you would violate you being home for 5. So people short term go, yeah, more money, but actually what they really want is to be home for 5 to take the kids to wherever. But they violate those rules because of the chase for more money. So they violate it short term, whereas actually it's really trying to stay in line with what you want. And it's hard sometimes because there's so many distractions in life.
Yeah.
But if you can really iron out, what do you want in life? What is your purpose? Which are deep questions. And I'll be honest, back in the day when the gym started, this type of talk for me was like, whatever, Ponzi, deep stuff. I don't want to go down there. I didn't really get mindset. I didn't get depression. I didn't get why people were being grumpy or tired or low. I didn't get it. I'm just like, get in the gym and work hard. I don't want to hear any excuses. And whether that was my naivety, whether that was just me and my knowledge wasn't there back then, I don't know. I think it played, maybe I was just too mean and I just wanted more from people at all costs. I look back now and I can see those holes in me of not picking up on those things. But nowadays, obviously, things have changed, and you can understand why that is. And you did mention how where social media potentially can impact that. And you're right, it can impact in a positive way, but also in a negative way, in the sense that people show up in online here, but then when you speak to them, they're this different person. They won't even speak, but online they're this kind of keyboard warrior. And I'm like, what the hell's going on here? And then people develop different personalities, which then leads to maybe potentially more issues. So it's the world's going to be a scary place in a few decades. Who knows where it's going to lead to? I mean, hopefully, for the benefit, as long as the education there is in school to help people get through it.
Yeah.
But, time will tell.
There was a program on a bit of a tangent, but there's a program I watched. I don't watch much TV, but it was a documentary on technology, and it's on kind of like these individuals that were quite high up in understanding where these big companies were starting to control lives, and they were kind of making a stand is to say, like, guys, this is what's going on. If we're not careful, they are literally starting to brainwash people into what to think about, what to do, where to go. Like, this is how powerful it is. And I think these people kind of turned around at the end and said, listen, we're not against tech. We work in it. We love it. We've helped create it. What we're saying is, at this point in time, it can go two ways. It can either help the world be a better place and help us survive, because we're killing the fucking world, or we're going to go into a way where actually everyone is manipulated to be a certain way. And it's a really interesting kind of one. And I think that, again, it's why one of my philosophies that I coach, and it's massive for myself, because funnily enough, mate, I don't follow a lot of people that potentially people think I would or should, like certain friends or certain businesses. Like, I won't follow if I know it's going to come up on my feed and frustrate me in a certain way. At the end of the day, it's not. Yeah, because I'm not going to let it frustrate me, because it's their belief. So if they're their belief, I don't hate them for having that belief or having that view, but I'm in control of whether I'm going to let it affect me or not. So I cannot be involved in it and then still meet them or still see them and have a conversation and not completely away from that. Like, these things, people don't realize that these are literally you can decide whether you see something and take annoyance to it and repetitively do it as well. Like if you see someone saying something out of you and it annoys you, and you carry on following them and keep letting it frustrate and annoy you, it's like he's got to come to a point where you've got to come to a point where you just take yourself away from it, and then be honest with him if you want to. Just say, listen, I disagree. And it's that's I'm not quite open with that. Like I'm quite strong worded in what I say, but it's because I'm targeting certain individuals. But I always say, if I offend you, if I'm popping up on your feed and it's irritating you or frustrating you or getting you down or anything like that, please remove me. And I would never take it offensively. I would actually feel quite empowered for you that you felt you could do that, because it means you're in control of your life. But whilst we're kind of touching on this, because this is something that I want to kind of touch upon, which is something that obviously you installed with, like, I think obviously everything that I went through that took me to a very dark place in my own mind. So my thoughts were quite horrendous at certain times. I was living in my head in the just going at myself in different ways, arguments, all these kind of horrendous thoughts and stuff. And that drove me in a lot of ways. But what you then helped me do is understand how to apply that to fitness. Not necessarily knowing my thoughts, because you've been very open and honest that you didn't know where I was at that point. But what you were able to do is, and where I'm getting at now is more the question. You utilize certain techniques within training that I feel transitioned me into kind of like just this beast. That's where you came up with the nickname Beast. Like I was called it as a young kid just because I was hairy, as Easty Beasty, but you were like Beast, like Beast. Everyone started saying Beast, 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 because Sean and Z call me fucking Beast. And the reason you call me Beast is because like you'd tell me to do something or you'd give me something and I'd just be at it and I'd go for it. And it's kind of like, where did it sit for you in terms of understanding how powerful, and not for me, just this is as you as a coach, because obviously you've not just instilled this into me, you instilled this into all of your clients, and also like you talked about there, it is still potentially at the heart of S&P. And with a lot of the athletes that you've coached, man, you there's a reason, like you worked with Michael Bisping, like you went over to the United States, you were taken over there. There's a reason for all this, and I don't think it's just your knowledge of S&C, exercise, programming, etc. I think it's what you can help someone mentally get out of everything, if that makes sense. So there was a lot of kind of, I'm not asking you to kind of go into kind of the techniques that you use, but just to talk more around, but just to talk more around how you think the mindset in that works, like how the mind worked for that. Because there was, like I say, mate, some of the stuff, and I remember some of the stuff that I only found out at a later date. It was one of them, Eddie Adby, one of the twins, and he turned around and said, mate, Sean told us that you weren't meant to complete it. And I was like, I didn't complete it. And he goes, yeah, exactly. He was just trying to get you to, he's kind of trying to make you, he's trying to see if you were going to fucking quit, basically, mate. I was like, wow. You know, but the most powerful thing about that, mate, the most powerful thing about that, this is what I love about you, is you still never told me. So if you still never told me, because you knew it potentially would have a better effect on me, knowing that I came away not moving the tire, and I probably moved it a foot, I think, in like an hour, a fucking foot. And like you never ever said, Ben, you weren't meant to move it. You were just like, Ben, time's up, fair play, you carried on, let's move on. Do you know that, like you say, that was your attitude? It was just, right, we crack on, we keep, do you know what I mean? And you never do that.
Our tagline was, what was it? Can you remember what our first tagline was?
No, shout it out.
Unleash your inner athlete. Or was it unleashing your inner athlete? And my only thing that I can answer this question with, without any mindset and coaching kind of proper material, would be that I always knew people could do more that they just didn't know.
Yeah.
So I believe that this person could lift a heavier weight, or go faster, or go harder, or kind of whatever. I mean, back then it was very fitness-esque. It wasn't so much like go eat a better diet or whatever. This was more like, you're in the gym, I know you can do more. You might not know it, but I know it, and we're going to do it together.
Yeah.
And how I use my words around that will just be different, to maybe depending on the attitude of the person, their goals. So obviously with you, it was very much quite a hard line.
Yeah.
Like, you were fighting, you were stepping in cages, you were gonna get punched in the face, right? So I had to give you some horrible things, some things that you could complete, some things that I knew you had no chance. But that's where the whole mental aspect comes in, doesn't it? Where it's like you, in your head, I don't know what was going through your head. Like, I'm not good enough. I need to work harder. That was my intention, was to try and get you to think along those lines rather than I'm not good enough. I'm going to quit.
Yeah.
You're that type of person who would go, I need to work harder.
Yeah.
Some people maybe might be like, I'm going to quit. And then you have to go down a different avenue with them. That's where it might be like, listen, that tire was never going to be moved. You know, don't worry about it. But your attitude was right. I need to go harder next time. So yeah. So my thing, I think, going back to it, is just, and I still do it today. You know, if I jump into it to help coach and whatever, I always want more. I always demand more. And I don't know if that's just me being a dick, or I think it's because I want that in myself.
Yeah.
I always want to be more, and more so now, in the sense that more doesn't always mean heavier or more reps. It's just more in the quality of life that you want. So
Yeah.
whatever that is, and most people want, if they have a fitness goal, well then let's do more in the gym to get you to your fitness goal, because I know you can do it. So it is that self belief, and obviously through my journey and through, my nephew losing his life through cancer and stuff, and then my old man losing his life through cancer, it puts that perspective of you've got to do the things you want in life.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, let's do it. And if someone comes to the gym, and now it's very much like, obviously nowadays it's, if you're happy, I'm happy. If you show up at gym and tell me you're not happy and you're not working with that, well then I'll tell you off. If you show up the gym and say you're happy, okay, cool, let's just go at a nice pace. But back then, obviously with you, it was very much like you didn't really get that say. You were there. If you showed up, you were there to work. And over the years that got softened, but you were in the prime of, we are having some fun here. Well, I'm having some fun here.
But
And
well, sorry.
I was going to say the end result was just hard work and the results we got from it.
Yeah. But I think like it's brilliant the way you're describing it, because you're enabling people to understand how this whole process can be individualized. And at the root of it is about getting the best out of someone. At the root of it is about being happy, because that's what all of this made me. Realistically, it was the one thing that was making me happy. But I think that it teaches you so much. I just think like, and it goes back, and anyone that went back in the day, I can guarantee will say this. And I'm saying back in the day just because I've not been into S&P for many years, but there was it was like I just wanted to be at S&P. Like you woke up, it's like, man, I'm going S&P today. And you get in and there'd be no rush. You'd have a chill out area. You'd be having a roll. At the end, you'd be having a coffee, or you'd be chilling. The music would be on. Different people would be coming in. It was a place. It wasn't in and out. It wasn't. It just, I don't know. And obviously that's transition. We've talked quite open and honestly. And this is something that I really struggled with when Benchmark started to transition more into a system business, which still has its old core values. But I think this is potentially where you had a better mindset than I did at this point, because I think because of what I went through, this is where B1 formed. This is why I formed B1, because there was so much in me that realized what fitness had done for me, and what applying myself that hard and how much of a hole it dug me out of. I couldn't lose those that philosophy as a coach, but I also couldn't adapt it. So that's probably a better way of describing it. So where you just talked for the previous 5 minutes about adapting it to the individual, being a little bit more emotionally intelligent in who they are and how to get the best out of them, like I had this thing installed in me of like, no, if you want the result, you go and get it and you put that work in, or you don't want it, or you don't want it then. And it was, do you know what I mean? And if I'm speaking to different people, I know emotional intelligence now, and I adapt it, but still in my heart of heart, I can't let that go, because I know where I was and I know where I am. And it's like, that wasn't easy for me. It wasn't easy for me to turn up and to put the hours in and to push myself as hard as it did. But I know where it got me. And it was, again, that was such a hard process for me. But I understand now that, and again, I think I think another interesting question that I'd like to ask you, Sean, is how you evolved when you became a father. Because I think that having Jax has been more of a game changer in my life than I ever imagined. And not necessarily in terms of toning down, but more in terms, funnily enough, more in terms of having less fear of going for things and achieving things. And I don't mean fitness now, I just mean in life. He's like, Jack's come along and I'm like, man, I'm here to kind of to make him happy and to be around him as much as I can. Like I am a dad that when I'm with him, man, I give him my all and my presence. But in my mind, I'm like, no one ever showed me what was capable in this world. Yeah. And that might have been my own fault for not looking around and looking for the right people until I met someone like yourself. But until I met someone like yourself, no one fucking showed me what was possible. And I've just got this thing in my mind now, like as a dad to show Jax, not to, because I know I'm never going to be able to make him do what I think you had the funny conversation on the phone the other day and you said your lad was going out. But I know when he gets to a certain age, it's going to be out of my control. I know it. I've got to hold my hands up. But until that time, I can't. All I can do is lead an example.
That's it. I mean, that is all you can do. I remember when Alfie was born 9 years ago now, and it does change your perspective. Obviously, he was born quite early on into the S&P journey, was it 4 years in or something? And so it was very much like, wow, I'm a dad now. I've got to look after someone else. All I had to do was go in and tell people what to do in the gym, and now I've got to come home and try and tell this screaming baby what to do. This ain't going to work. So it is a journey, and it's an eye opener. You know, anyone who's going to be a father out there, it's the most amazing thing in the world, but it's also a big learning curve. But obviously, you know, mine are older now, 9 and 7, and it is very much like they are becoming aware of, you know, if they watch movies and they see strong like superheroes, this and that, they talk about Robert, you know, naughty men and this and that, all the things that they see on movies, all the things that they chat with their kids. So for me personally now, that fuels me to keep on doing what I'm doing even more. I want to be fit, strong, and healthy for as long as I can. They know that. And I don't even need to say much to them in that sense. They just understand what I do is what I do. I go to the gym. So then when the time's right, I've asked them to come down. And right now, I mean, over the past few years, they're not massively keen. And I don't know why. I don't know if it's because it's my place.
Yeah.
Where if I was going somewhere different, I think it might be different. Yeah. But in time, I know when they hit a certain age, they'll be like, Dad, you know, can I go to the gym now? And that's when I'll be like, right, let's go. But all the fundamentals have been instilled.
Yeah.
Like every day. You know what I mean? So, but when they say, can I go? I'm like, okay, let's go and have some fun.
And then I'm laughing, like, literally the old Sean just switches back like that. Is that right? This is it. This is your program.
I can't wait for that. Just like, you know, when you go for a pint with your dad. You know, obviously when we were younger, now it's going to be like, can I go to the gym with you now? Can I do this with you now? I'm like, right, yeah, cool. And you know, it's on their own. It's on their own turf. Like it's their call. It isn't me forcing it, saying they have to come down. It's like I want to do it now because I want to get bigger and stronger. I want to be faster on a football pitch. I want to do these things, and that's when you can do whatever with them, you know, because they're yours. You try and force them too early, then you know it's like they're going to rebel it.
Yeah, of course.
Well, I mean, obviously you're quite off that right now, and as little Jack grows up, you'll just be like, all right, you know, you do these things with them, you expose them to it, you take them to the gym, you see them throwing things around, picking things up, and it's awesome to see. It then becomes a project. How can I build the best athlete? Right, we need to climb, you need to get a track, you need to do this.
How much do you? Just out of curiosity, like, how much is your head still? And obviously, I know it is within the fitness game, but how much is it in terms of kind of like gaining knowledge and where your training is leading you to? Because I think like the intent and like just to reiterate here, like the intensity of that back in the day was relentless. Like there was never a time where you weren't learning something new and implement it on yourself or getting someone else to implement it through your coaching. Like that was you were the staple of that. Like literally, that's what people came to you for, understood off you. The understanding of training and methods was unbelievable. And where does that sit with you now? Is that something that you've had to break from a little bit? Is there still things that you lean towards just kind of looking at or leaning into? Because back then, the thing with S&C as well, last thing is it can be a wide spectrum sometimes. Because like you say, it was S&C is massive. You're not talking just kind of like bodybuilding a hypertrophy. You're not talking just a Gen Pop weight loss. Like S&P can scale to anything. It's involved in anything. Like you say, S&P is now Gen Pop as much as it is involved in sports. So kind of like, where do you sit in terms of your enjoyment now? If
so
that makes sense.
I don't probably like you. I don't really follow anyone. I don't really go on social media that much. I don't really read many articles anymore. One reason, and I dropped this a while ago, is because you get influenced quite easy. You can get influenced into believing that something is better than what you're thinking. So you take that noise out of the equation. Actually, you can gather your own thoughts, and as long as you understand the core fundamentals of what you're trying to do, energy system, strength work, your mind will be creative as it wants if you let it be. Whereas if you're exposed to what this guy's doing, what they're doing, you can never be that creative yourself. So I don't read any programs. I don't really read much more knowledge now, whether that's going to hold me back. But I think for the people who we work with, it's fine. If I was maybe working with the top maybe 1% or whatever, it might be different. But for who we're working with, I think we have all area covered. And we have our systems now in the gym are very much, we do work hard, but we work sensible, and we cover aspects from mobility to lifting heavy. But now the heavy might be a 3 to 5 reps. But we still like to do some horrible sessions. So every now and then we'll do charity events and stuff. And we did this one for my, for my nephew. It was 6 hours, right? It was one of the most brutal sessions I've ever done. And I'll tell you, if I can remember, it was like 50 man makers, 50 chins, 50 lengths of bear crawls, 50 walking lunges, 50 burpees, 50 swings. I think there was 6 or 7 things, and it was 5 rounds of it.
Wow.
And rather than, and I'm quite, going back to who I am, I want to work hard, and especially because it was for my nephew, and in this aspect, I want it to be horrible. So man makers, instead of just using a nice 10, 12K, I was using 20 to 25K for 50 reps. You're doing 3 reps at a time, 3 reps, little rest, go again, 5 times round, 6 hours of work. And I do those things to humble myself.
Yeah.
And part of me enjoys it. I do enjoy it, but I also like the challenge, and I like that feeling. But you don't need it all the time.
Yeah.
But I do still like to do it. Whatever it is, just something that makes you go, all right, you sit down again, type of attitude. And I like that. Whether it's the right thing, whether it's not, I don't know. But for me personally, and the members in the gym who also go through it as well, it is a very humbling experience.
Yeah. I think you hit the nail on the head. It's where I think when you've been on a process like yourself, and I hope a process like myself as well, you generally are in the position that you want to be in, if that kind of makes sense. I think that I do believe things happen for a reason, good or bad. But I think when you're on what you would call a good spell, and I'm kind of quite blessed to be able to say that as a person now. I used that would kind of freak me out to be able to say I'm in a good place now. Like, but I think to be able to be in that place allows you to trust in your methods of what you're doing at that minute in time. So I think, like you say, a lot of the training aspects that I do, or a lot of any of the kind of wellness, the mental and physical aspects that I do, it's just, I think you touched on it before, but it's making sure I want it part of my life. It's making sure I enjoy it. and there's a reason for it, and that it aligns with my values of life and the things that I've got within it. And I've even over the last 6 years, I've taken things out of my life that weren't necessarily bad, but they just a great example that you gave before. They just didn't sit inside that track. What the key values were. So that's a really good analogy that you gave before, and I think that helps me now stay as focused as I am, because it's very easy. And again, in today's day and age, it's very easy to still get distracted, and it's still easy to get emotionally charged and mentally triggered on all of these things. But I think that's where the only reason I'm bringing that up is that's why I like the word humbling. And I think that the when you talk about a session like that, and again, I've just got to bring this in as well. I know we're going a bit over time now, but what I love about certain pieces of equipment is that because there's no necessary technique in terms of I'm braced, I'm in this position, is this correct? It's just pull the prowler, pull the sled, push that weight. And it's that hard. And you think, oh shit, so I've got to push it, and all I'm left with is the thoughts right now. And the picture that I put a post up, and there's a picture of me in S&C, and I'm pulling, S&P, and I'm pulling a sled just piled with sandbags and kettlebells. I'm holding a rope, and then I'm doing a bear crawl with a rope around my neck and weights on the back. And it's like, in moments like that, with exercises like that, they are so simple. It's literally a question of, are you going to stop or you carry on? There's no other. It's like literally you're stopping or you're carrying. It's as simple. It's whether you're going to allow those foot. And that's what I love about sometimes, like you've talked about before, the simplest things done right have the best outcomes. And I think that, like, one of the amazing things about S&P was the length of the Astro was phenomenal. Like it must have been at that stage the biggest in the Northwest, if not the UK. It was huge. And mate, it was like when you are pulling hundreds of key and pushing hundreds of key and bear crawling along that. If you don't find yourself in those moments, I don't know where you find yourself. Like, for me, that's a form of meditation.
But you did it because you knew what you wanted. And I think nowadays a lot of people struggle with what they actually want.
Right.
They sometimes want what their best mate wants because they see their best mate doing something. And it's so hard to align with, what do you actually want? What is actually going to make you happy? Don't do something if you don't enjoy it. Don't do something if you're not going to carry on with it, for the next 10, 15 years. And this is what we say to our guys. It's like the whole, I can't eat carbs, for example. But are you going to do that for the rest of your life? Well, no, don't do it now then. Or are you going to do this? Only do the stuff that you're going to commit to. Create your lane, create your life, understand what you want. But it is hard to do because a lot of people don't know. A lot of people get caught up in a different world, and then they can't focus on themselves as much.
It's funny though, because that goes back to what you were saying a minute ago about reading articles and then hearing something that goes against your belief. Because one of your other things that you always kind of coach me on was train hard and eat smart. Like, when you said eat smart, it was like, fucking beast, go and eat. You just killed that session. That was tough. Go and eat. Like, fuel up. Just eat whatever you need to eat right now. Like, your philosophy was like, eat smart, but if you're training hard and your body needs it, refuel it, and it will adapt. Your body will naturally do what it wants to do if your output is what it needs to be at. And then on the other days, kind of being a little bit more sensible. But like you say there, you then belief building and breaking down beliefs can happen all the time just by listening to someone or reading something. And I don't know, maybe a question to pose to you there, which is, do you feel there's got to be a process of learning, whether it's through mistakes or through successes? But my point being there is, you hear a lot, find the people that have achieved it and follow what they've done, because you're going to get success, which is a valid point because they've obviously achieved success because of that. But I also have this theory of, I do agree with that, by the way, but I also have this theory of they potentially achieve success, but they still hit pitfalls. And they're advising you not to hit the pitfalls, but what they potentially aren't advising you is what hitting those pitfalls did for them as individuals. Do you know what I mean by that? Like those things they hit just did something to them. It maybe made them think a different way or feel a different way or take a different perspective. And they know the answer that they can give you, but what they might not be able to give you is that gut feeling, that internal instinct that has stayed with them now to be that successful person. So I do believe in finding someone that's achieved it in their process, having major benefits and understanding it. But I do also believe that and I think you said it before, like it's you didn't look at S&P as a day of failure or a hiccup in this is like a major thing. You're just like, man, I'm living my passion day to day, and we just keep riding.
Yeah.
And if that becomes your life, and then that's created what you've created, which is a major successful business. So it's like,
and I'm a firm believer that everyone inspires someone, and I didn't think that I inspired you that much because I was just going about my thing. Yeah. But same with anyone who comes into your gym, our gym, you will inspire someone in some way or another. And all you got to do is show up and be that person to lead, to show them the way. If you tell people that, I remember telling, we've had a couple of members who've lost a lot of weight. I'm talking 60, 70 kilos.
Wow.
And even when they were 20, 30, and I'm like, you are inspiring people day by day. And that little words give them that, I need to do this more because I'm helping more people now. And that keeps them going. So everyone inspires everyone in some form of another. And I guess what you're saying is with those pitfalls, you don't know how much it changed you, but you want this other person to avoid them. And it is a bit unknown, isn't it? It depends, by you not telling them to fall in a hole, is that helping them or holding them back?
Yeah.
Who knows? That's the question that, out of 100 people, will it be 50 people find it good, 50 people find it not? I mean, I don't know. I don't know on that one.
And I think that kind of comes to me like that. That's why I look kind of like the why I kind of drew so much to the word mindset, because I think for different ways of obviously how mindset's been described and talked about and brought up. But for myself, it's kind of like what you allow in your mind to focus on. So if you are one of the people that falls down the hole, it's just whether you're prepared to think I'm going to get back out of this hole and keep it on moving forward, or you think I'm in the hole now, fuck, I'm either going back or I'm just stuck in a hole. So it's kind of like what I try to build, but like, because the other thing is, this is a mad tangent, but I think it makes sense. But there might have been someone else that fell down that hole, got back out and succeeded. So could you find out how they got out of the hole to succeed? And again, it's like you're saying, that could be a different person influencing you, just like, layers like it. And I think I'm a big believer in what you just said, and it's powerful, which is I don't think a lot of people truly know how much they're influencing other people. But I think there's both a bad and a good to that. So awareness is massively key, but then it might not be, because I don't know that, like, it's quite nice to know that. Honestly, it was quite nice to know when I had that conversation. I think you always deep down knew that you'd guided me and helped me achieve how much I'd achieved. I think that without a doubt, it's obvious with the people you've met through me that then start to be coached by you, and the way they spoke about how I spoke about you, if that makes sense. I always held you in such a high regard, and they even came away holding you in such a high regard. But I think that to not know, literally, that like I say, it was just kind of, it was a light that I needed at that moment in time. But like you say, mate, I think that you talked, I'll kind of start to wrap up soon, but you talked a bit ago about you see potential pits in how you were as an emotional human, not being aware of certain things. But maybe if you were, you'd have treated me differently. If you treat me differently that minute in time, maybe you wouldn't have got out with me what you needed to, because maybe at that minute in time, I didn't need to talk about my emotions. Maybe I needed to have something to put them into that didn't make me do. I don't know.
Then, if I did know more, and then you can't push someone too much, but in case they go home and then you don't see them again, and just imagine it would be like, option one, we're going to carry on as we were. We're going to work hard. Option two, I'm going to go easy on you. Option three, should we have a chat and a coffee? Option 2 and 3 were not an option back then. And if they were, what would that have done to you?
Yeah.
It's much to put my arm around you. Hey, Ben, should go for coffee and a sit down and a chat, you would have been like, shut up.
Mate, you literally walk up and you'd be like, if you finish it, I'd be like, no, you'd be like, well, you've been speaking to me. Like you'd be ruthless, mate, but not in an, like, by the way, guys, not in an arrogant way and not in a mean way. Like I'm talking in a coach way. This was Sean, and again, Sean's obviously spoken how he adapted to different people, but that's what I needed, man. If he so I was speaking to someone in the gym floor, I'd be like, why are you resting? Like, what are you doing? Like, what? It was that mentality. But this
all that was I wanted more. I demanded more, and I really wanted you to understand that you could do more as well. And it was a funny time, and I don't, none of that was a mindset thing. I just did it. I didn't think I'm saying this because he's going to think like this, and then he's going to do this. It was more in the moment. I'm here to make you better. This is what we need to do.
Yeah.
And we went on some journeys, but you had some fights. I mean, what was your record that you finished on actually?
Well, semi-pro, mate, I finished on 70. I had a lot of semi-pro fights, 17-9. And then pro only had 3 pro fights, but I won 2 and lost 1. But this epitomizes me, which is my first pro fight was a known fight. It was for a title fight. So a title fight for my first pro. 3 people had dropped out on him, apparently injuries. Yeah. And the promoter rang up my trainer and just said, there's an opportunity for Ben to fight for a welterweight belt, main fight, pro. And the trainer was like, Ben, I was like, I'm there, I'm done, I'm gone, I'm in. And I got absolutely battered, broke nose, broke cheekbone, fucking hammered. Yeah, what's that?
Was that when you held the belt at the end?
No, so that was another fight. That one. This was Cahoon, and he just nailed me. But my mentality, just like the thinking of someone, right? Let's structure it properly, Ben. Let's turn pro. Let's take some sensible fights. Mm-hmm. Let's find someone who matches your technique or your skills, or let's get a strategy together. And he's like, Ben, you've got a pro fighter, welterweight title fight. Do you want to go for it? I'm like, motherfucker, I'm in. Let's go. And then we train hard and we get in there. And again, I think that I don't hate the fact that I had that. I don't hate that I had that in me, because I think that there was a really interesting thing that happened on that fight, which was in the weigh-ins. I was so scared, and he could see it in my eyes. So we did the weigh-in the day before, and he was looking at my eyes, and he could see fear, he could smell fear. But on the day of the fight, my entrance in, I was that pumped and hyped, and I got in the cage and I looked at him and I saw fear in his eyes. And it wasn't a fear of me, it was a fear of thinking, have I misjudged this motherfucker?
Yeah.
Who is this guy that's just stepped in the cage? Like, he looked at me as if to say, like, what? And I just had this animal, this I was known for like that red mist Ben stare, and it was just like looking through him. Because it just kind of switched in, but he was a good fight. He was technically an amazing fight. It's why he was a champion. He was technically an unbelievable Thai fighter, and got me on the floor and just struck me with vicious elbows and punches. But I just wasn't at that level. It was my mistake, just because I was this young lad. But again, I was fighting for the wrong reasons at that point. I enjoyed it. It was my passion.
Do you think you would have been a better fighter if you had more control, or if you were less angry?
Without doubt. I think some when I won, I think some fights I got in that cage out of breath already before I'd done anything.
Yeah.
Because I'd wound myself that much out in the back. And I was doing it for the wrong reasons. I was doing MMA because I loved it. And I watched MMA. I trained jiu-jitsu. I trained JKD. I loved it. It was my life. I was training 2-3 times a day. I was down at S&P training. I was following everything to a T. So I wasn't, from a training side of it, I wasn't doing it the wrong way. But what I was doing the wrong way was taking fights that weren't smart and that weren't right for me. And I wasn't being, unfortunately, I found a lot out about the trainer that I had, but he had no clue what he was realistically doing. And he was letting a young kid enter some fights that I could have got seriously hurting for the rep of his wanting to be known as he's got kids that will go in and fight.
For 50 quid.
Yeah, fucking hell. For absolute pittance. So yeah, but from I learned, like I say, mate, I learned a lot. And I think that going in now as well, a lot calmer and a lot smarter, understanding how, because that's the other thing. When you're running off anger, you forget technique.
You can't think properly, can
you can't think, right, okay, relax, shoulders down, guard up, let's step aside, let's make him move, let's throw. You're just there, you're tense, you are not thinking of it, and then it just gets messy. And this is why meditation and mindfulness has helped me so much, which we won't go into too much tonight with yourself, but because it was the first time I ever sat with my thoughts and allowed myself to understand what was going on in my head. And training's the only other thing in my life that's ever done that. But the difference between the two was, in training, I put it into something.
Yeah.
So push this way to that end. And as I'm pushing and I've got these horrendous thoughts happening, to fight against those thoughts, I'm pushing harder to feel the pain. Like, I want that lactic, I want that burn. I don't care. I want it. I want to feel it. But when I sit down and listen to the thoughts, I can't do anything. So it's a crazy thing. But again, that was my path, and it's not everyone else's. But I think that I'm grateful to be where I am now. And it's amazing.
On a journey. If we look back, if we talk about your first fight, the Virgin fight. For those who don't know, Ben's first fight.
Yeah, so I gave it a little shout out, but there's a gentleman that there's a young lad in there that always left his weights out, and me and him didn't get on, and he pushed past me, and he ended up taking him outside the fire exit and kicking off on him and started to fight him. Sean had seen me go outside, and Sean followed me with Z and opened the fire doors. And I think you said I gave you a look as if to say, mate, just give me a little bit of time here.
Well, I stuck my head out because I saw them both walk out, and I knew what was going on. And I'm like, okay, they're going to go and have a scrap now. So I stuck my head out the fire exit, and Ben had him in a headlock. And he looks at me and just goes, just give me another minute. And I was like, all right, I'll close the door. And I closed that door, and I'm like, I can't give him another minute. This kid's going to be gone. Open the door, split them up, sent the kid off, and what was to be, what was to be. But in that moment, I was like, I can't leave this member and this guy, and just have a fight. And to be fair, I think that was a sensible thing.
But more than mate, more than like
it was just like how hot-headed you were.
Yeah,
you were in the gym training. Next minute, you're outside and fighting this kid.
Yeah,
it was like, wow, that escalated fast.
Yeah. And that, again, that just goes back to someone who doesn't understand how to deal with emotions.
Yeah.
And acting out. And that's the power of, and that's why advocate of training and advocate of doing things that do help you start to understand everything a bit more. But like you say, it's tough, because although I'm an advocate of understanding emotions and thoughts, you hit the nail on the head a bit ago, which is, there's certain stages in your life where you wouldn't even fucking entertain it. Like, if someone started to try to go into that conversation with you, you'd be like, nah.
Whoa, stop there.
Yeah. Like, do you know what I mean? And it's interesting.
My personality as well. I don't want to know anymore.
Yeah.
Sometimes the more you know, the more you overanalyze, then you can't come up with an outcome. Whereas actually, if you understand, if you understand less, then therefore actually, this is the way you deal with this, and this is the way you deal with that. Whether it's right, whether it's wrong, who knows? But that's just the way you deal with it. But for yourself, you understand things on such a deeper level that you can, that people probably need. People more are open to it now.
Yeah.
That I think probably a lot of people kind of nowadays, I guess a question for you would be, how do you know you need help with your mindset? And how can people recognize that earlier? Is it just they feel that they can't get clarity, that they can't think, that they can't focus, that they have these thoughts? Is that a time where they go, I need help, or I need to do something?
It's nice that you've asked me that question, actually, because I think that, in my honest answer, it's when something happens for a long period of time. Because we all have dips, we all have down days, we all can get a little bit depressed or start to think negatively. Like, these are important things in life. Even negative emotions are important, because the signals are telling us something isn't right in our life and we need to change it. And generally, most people do, and they can wake up the next day and think, oh, it's just a bad day. I'm back on the game, or they just piss me off, but actually I forgot about it now, XYZ. But if you are continuously going week to week and you are in a bad mental place, or you find you just don't, for a lot of people, mate, they feel they don't have a focus in life. Like they just feel they haven't got a focus. And I think that when people have children, I think children become the focus.
Yeah.
And when someone's got a career, the career can become the focus. But again, I've experienced this as well, which was like I was in a career that I was in a 9-to-5 debt collection job that I absolutely hated. And I lied that this is me again. This is you impacting my life, but I lied to say I had to go and pick my niece up from 12 till 2. So I worked from 8 till 12, left work, went to the gym, trained for 4 hours, going back to work, and then worked till 7. But like, I think focus is a big one. And I think a lot of people don't understand where their focus is going. And if they sit down and assess it, it's like, right, okay, so, and again, mate, I don't drink a lot, but I'm not anti-drink. Like I understand the enjoyment in it. But I think for a lot of people, they need to understand where their focus is going and whether they want it to be there. I think a lot of people get
purpose, everything, focus, purpose, happiness. You know, what do you want?
Exactly that, mate. And I think if you, and that's mindset, it's like what your mind is set on. If your mind's set on all of those things, you're executing and it's happening, and you're moving forward or progressing, or just complacent, but in a good way. Like with family life, you can be complacent and just think, well, there's no progression other than just embracing time with my son right now and my family. And can I be present and happy? And when I say happy, not thinking about all of this stuff that's going on, can I just be still with my son, man, and enjoy and see him do something daft? And I think, but again, I'm still within a journey of this because I had 20 years of nailing training knowledge. And I think I've only just scratched the surface of mindset and self-development. So it's kind of like a new wave for me. But just to finish on, kind of like, where are you sat now in terms of yourself, in terms of S&P? Kind of like what's Sean's potential next steps or next journey? Where are you sat right now? Are you happy with where you're at?
Yeah, it's a good question. You know, I am in a good place. I am happy. We went through a few years of just chasing, pushing, chasing, wanting more. What's more? You know, I've come to learn more doesn't mean anything. You know, everyone says, I just want more. More what? What does that identify with? It doesn't identify with anything. More money? Well, how much money do you want and why do you want it? And are you happy to commit another 10 hours a week to get this more money? Well, actually, I don't know because you don't know because you don't know what you want. So for us, we did push hard and we built up because we were chasing more. So right now I feel I'm in a place of just contentment, happy. That's not to say I don't want progress still in all areas of in terms of the gym life. The gym's doing, what it's doing. It still has its markers that we want to hit, but it isn't chasing, the ceiling. It isn't chasing the best of the best. And a lot of this comes down to our coach, Nick, and is very much like, as long as what you do this week is better than what you did last week.
Yeah.
And in all forms. And obviously this goes back to what you said at the start. Here's the vision. Yeah. And then you can break that down into goals. And those goals could be as simple as, I did 50 extra steps this week from last week. Cool. In terms of fitness, well, then you've done better. In terms of goals and personal life, you could set it up for family life. You could set up for, however you want. And you could break down these small little goals. And as long as you're better than the week before, then you're on track. You don't need to change it. You don't need to force it. When you force it is when you start to give up on the things that you enjoy. Yeah. And then you start to lose track of actually what your purpose is in life. So actually go slow to go fast. Yeah. So a lot of those things kind of resonate with me in that sense now, that actually just enjoy what you've got and have not set those dreams so high, and just let time and randomness change that for you. So if something comes my way that I wasn't expecting, I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
Rather than me be in a state of I'm pushing hard, something really good comes in, I can't deal with it because I'm pushing hard this way. And even though this way is maybe not the way that I want to go. So I'm in a good place now. I'm just enjoying it, enjoying family time, enjoying training, not pushing too hard, but still wanting more, you know. It
Yeah.
isn't to say that I'd shut up the gym and don't do anything anymore. Anyone can probably attest that if they train with me in the gym, that I still want to go and I still want to work. But you're just enjoying life. Got to enjoy life. Again,
Yeah.
after those things that happened to Leo passing away at his age,
Yeah.
you've got to enjoy life, whatever that means on your terms. And if you're not doing it, got to ask yourself why.
Yeah.
And as cheesy as it is, you get one shot in this world, don't you?
Yeah.
So what are you doing?
Yeah.
And those are difficult questions to ask sometimes people because they get caught up in, well, I need to do this. Well, why do you need to do it? And you can go deep on those. You can go so deep on them. But yeah, enjoy life. I'll close that with that. Enjoy life on like, you know, on whatever that means to you.
Yeah. And
And
I think,
everyone's different.
yeah, without that, I think you've explained it perfectly. And I think that it actually worked well by you ending with those powerful questions, because I think that the way you encapsulate enjoying life, the key questions that you asked, or the power punches that I'd probably call them, which were key, help someone understand whether they are or not. And again, that's the whole benefit of potentially where this show came from, is about just getting different individuals where someone will resonate and click. And like we talked about, what you just said there, kind of really sitting into someone's head and thinking, man, am I enjoying life? And do you know what I mean? So Sean, man, can't thank you enough for coming on.
Been a pleasure, buddy. I've enjoyed it. I've waffled for an hour and a half.
Maybe we could go on for a lot longer in the time we knew each other and things that went on. But yeah, I just wanted to, I think this was quite a proud one for me, to have yourself on and to be quite open and spoken about, obviously, someone that's impacted my life so much. And I'm hoping that anyone that's listening to this one, and this guys will be, this is also going to be strict to an audio and go on to the B1 podcast on Spotify and Apple as well, so you can listen. I know it's a long one, so that's why we do the podcast version as well. So if you've enjoyed, please subscribe, please hit like. But what I was saying there is, someone's going to listen to this and hopefully, like you say, going to take something from it that helps them transition their life the way you kind of helped me, mate. And if that can happen, that's
close with one more thing.
please
I should have said it before. In life, I think a lot of us want answers. We want certainty to what we're doing. So you start something, and then you want to know where it ends. What my advice or something to think about is keep an open loop. Don't try and close the loop. So sit with it. You might sit with it for a few days. You might someone might this, and again, this could be anything, work, life, fitness, whatever. Sit with that open loop until you can try and close it yourself. Don't look for answers. The answers will come to you if you're open to them.
wow.
So open loops, keep open loops all the time.
Wow. That's made me think. I'm gonna be messaging you to pick your brain on that one, because I'm gonna wrap it up, but I'm gonna pick Sean's brain on that, and then I'm gonna come back with the knowledge he gives me on that one as well. So legend as always, Sean.
It's been a pleasure.
And I look forward to speaking to you soon,
buddy.
Yeah,
all right.
Top man.
See you
Cheers,
later.
mate. Bye. So, guys, that was episode number 8 with Sean, and that's pretty powerful, man. A lot of memories there, and it's good to talk. I think we could have delved a lot more into training, but obviously I wanted to be wary of not going too intense in training because of more the impact he's had on my life and the transition we've both had in terms of what we created in terms of businesses. And what we're achieving now in life. Like we're passionate people. We've got a lot of goals, and we're still out there, both enjoying life but progressing forward. And I think that's important. But I think it's good to have him on. I've not spoken to Sean in a long time. Until I reached out to him, I've probably not spoke to him for quite a few years. So he was a bit shocked when I reached out to him and then told him how much he'd impacted my life. But you can tell just from us speaking then, actually, that he truthfully didn't realize at that time how much of an impact he was having on me or how bad a state I was in, which potentially just goes to show you never know how someone is feeling or thinking. So your actions can always affect them. And that's potentially what I'd like to leave you with in the show tonight, which is just anyone you meet or anyone that you're around, however they're acting or speaking, they might not be feeling and thinking the same inside. So just be aware of, if you're being you, absolutely brilliant. but just be aware that they might be struggling, man, and the things that you do may impact them, and hopefully it's impacting them in a positive way. So guys, thank you as always. Again, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Please give it a like if you've enjoyed this, and I look forward to seeing you on episode number 9.